Hello, friends. So, so looking forward to conduct this session today. I happen to be live on our Facebook group as well as on Instagram, and I am hoping that all of you are able to see me. And I had forwarded today's message, how relevant this topic is in a certain sense, especially when we are all gripped by a variety of fears. And then there's this also exactly opposite angle that perhaps fear to some extent is healthy right now. So if fear is healthy in the current times, then to what extent do we apply moving from fear to courage? So I'm just going to share a little bit about this group that you are seeing me on Instagram. All those who are on Facebook are watching this through our Practical Spirituality group. And this is a group that we have set up to share, every Tuesday evening at this very time, 7:15, we share about a variety of topics of practical relevance. My forte personally is application of spirituality in the domain of health, wealth, and relationships and enlightenment. So we talk about how we can apply the basic spiritual concepts instead of keeping them theoretical and bookish and only at the level of thought. How can we apply them at the level of our daily life? I pride myself for being a pragmatist in that sense, because a pragmatist allows one to apply the so-called far-fetched concepts into daily pragmatic life. So that is what this group does on Facebook, the Practical Spirituality group. And every Tuesday evening, a group of us, all of us are friends. Some of them are trainers in their own right. Some of them are students who have been studying with me. And we present to you one topic every Tuesday evening and try to add value to all of your lives. So it is in the same context that I share today. And I so look forward to, I hope you too look forward to this and you are enjoying my, if at all you are doing that, my lockdown look. Everybody is experimenting with a new look, I guess. So at least I am one of those who is experimenting with a new look, which may or may not survive. How we take this forward is, I have a few things to discuss today, especially in the context of the current times. But I will also look forward to your questions in the timeline. And it is your questions which could make our discussion more interesting, more relevant, more pragmatic, more useful for everyone. So feel free to type in your questions, and I will see that every now and then. If our viewers on Instagram have questions, then you could type in Instagram and somebody will relate back to me on Facebook. I will watch only the Facebook timeline. So I'm going to jump straight into the topic for now. How this topic is so relevant currently and also somewhat irrelevant. And let us first cover if it is irrelevant. The current times call for some extreme measures of caution. We have all seen that. And at a logistical level, each of us has been maintaining social distancing, has been wearing a mask when we venture out, or has been washing our hands and taking all the necessary precautions. There is one theory that, unless a person is in the grip of some or the other level of anxiety or fear, he cannot be cautious. So to some extent, that theory is correct, because the current state of humanity is such that in order to be cautious, fear has to be a primary emotion first. And I often categorize fear into two varieties: healthy and unhealthy fear. So there is an element of healthy fear. Even while crossing a road, you need to be somewhat fearful. Only then you would remain grounded, and only then you can cross a road successfully. In the same way, even during the current pandemic, some level of fear is healthy fear. However, the issue is that a lot of us tend to convert this into a very different level of fear and make it sort of psychological. And the psychological fear vis-a-vis operational fear is a very different domain altogether. We do not want to give in to psychological fear owing to the pandemic. What is the difference between the two? The first question that I am let me ask you. You can reply on your timeline as you're with me on Facebook, even on Insta, that what do you think is the difference between fear and caution? And is some amount of fear required in order to be cautious? I generally love for it to be interactive. So if it is interactive, it gives me also a lot of energies, and I can contribute better to you. So I look forward to your answers on the Facebook or the Insta timeline, and we will accordingly go ahead and explore this deeper. Now there is this another angle while you answer, that can a person be cautious without feeling fearful? I also appreciate the fact that some of you may want me to talk also in Hindi. So क्या ऐसी संभावना है कि हम सतर्क रह सकते हैं भयभीत हुए बिना? क्या सतर्क रहने के लिए भयभीत होना आवश्यक है? That is the line of exploration right now. So here is my humble contention that in the current state of humanity, a lot of people require to be fearful in order to be cautious, but not everybody has to be. You can be simply cautious without feeling fearful. And that is definitely one suggestion and one line of thought that I would like to propose to each of you, that during this pandemic, continue to obviously be cautious, but do not give in to psychological fear. Psychological fear belongs to a different domain altogether. I'll give you some examples. Say, for example, somebody, in the neighboring building gets COVID, and then you start getting panicky about it. That is psychological fear. That is not, that is sentimental, that is not rational fear. So, or you watch daily news and you feel that the number of people who are being discharged from the hospital is far lesser, and the number of people who require to be admitted are far more compared to the number of beds available. तो ये उसकी वजह से जो भय लगता है वो भी एक साइकोलॉजिकल फियर है, वो कोई वैलिड फियर नहीं है. मास्क पहनना, पुटिंग ऑन दैट मास्क या सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग रखना, वो एक लॉजिस्टिकल ऑपरेशनल रैशनल फियर है. पर बहुत सारे फियर्स इरैशनल होते हैं, जिसको आप तर्कगत नहीं मान सकते, जो तर्क के बाहर हैं, जो मात्र आपकी भावनाओं पर आधारित है. तो ऐसे भय का कोई काम नहीं है. एंड what we do is we just make things worse for ourselves and our family by giving into such fear, because what actually happens is there have been numerous studies, that what we contract, the disease we contract, is a function of our psychological state. People who do not delve too much into anxiety may not necessarily get that disease. I'm sure there are a lot of other factors, but this is a profound important factor. that if you are gripped by psychological fear, there is a far greater chance that you might project the disease onto yourself, you might attract it onto yourself, and and scenarios are always external, they are always secondary, never primary. So this is how you tread the line, the fine line between caution and fear. And as I see some of you that Gaurang shares how caution is action, whereas fear is mindset, interesting. And with the mindset of fearlessness, one can yet be cautious. And Rosie shares that caution rather than fear, and fear is a signal. Interesting. Rutvik shares here that right from our evolution, fear has been a part of us. Yes. So fear is, there is a space for healthy fears, but the current condition that all of us occupy is the examples I gave you, wherein a lot of things are beyond our rationality, the kind of fears that we harbor for ourselves, and these fears definitely don't serve us. In the name of realism, lots of people who want to be realistic right now, we are giving into fear. In the name of science, we are giving into fear because we are delving more and more into the scientific ways. And then in the name of media and watching media and keeping ourselves updated, our mind is, all of it is required, but there is a proportion in which it should be exercised. So this is a standard caveat I have been giving for the past couple of months, and I thought that it is very apt to discuss this right now. I'm going to take this forward. I have read your comments, and some of them inspired me to share my views right now. The next point that I would like to cover to take this forward and onward from, analyze fear. And to understand, I would like to read some of your definitions of fear. If you want to define fear for me, or in your own sweet language, you want to just paraphrase what fear is, where does fear stem from, in a sentence or two. भय जो है उसका जन्म कहाँ से होता है? Fear, what is the genesis of fear? What is the origin of fear? What is its birthplace? उसका स्रोत क्या है भय का? So while I look forward to your answers on the timeline on Facebook as well as on Insta, I am going to carry on and keep sharing what I have on mind. So earlier on, I used to define fear in a different way, which I'm going to cover for a bit before I move on to the new definition that I have found to be more fundamental. So my original definition of fear is what I call discomfort with discomfort. Some of you may know the concept of vulnerability, and the best way to define vulnerability or conscious vulnerability is comfort with discomfort. अगर जीवन में असुरक्षा है और किसी भी प्रकार की दिक्कत है, तो उस असुरक्षा के प्रति और उस दिक्कत के प्रति आप स्वयं उसको लेकर के आप और असुरक्षा या और दिक्कत का निर्माण तो नहीं कर रहे हैं. If there is discomfort in life, are you uncomfortable with that discomfort, or are you okay with that discomfort? That is what defines conscious vulnerability. And that is what defines fear in a certain sense, that when you are uncomfortable with your discomfort, you feel fearful. See, discomfort is a regular life, our tendencies are such. Our tendencies, the best word to translate tendencies is karma sanskar. हमारे कर्म संस्कार ऐसे हैं कि भय का निर्माण तो अवश्य होगा. Our tendencies are such that we will by default, give in to discomfort. Nevertheless, there will be discomfort in terms of our psyche, in terms of our body, in the form of difficult sensations, like if we have to appear for an exam, or for some people who are not public speakers, if they have to do a Facebook Live or conduct a seminar or attend a very, very important meeting, you know, there's a great chance that one might experience all sorts of fear. So that discomfort is a part and parcel of our personality given our prior tendencies, पूर्व कर्म संस्कार के हिसाब से. पर to be uncomfortable about that discomfort, कि मुझे शरीर में ऐसा कोई sensation नहीं चाहिए. I do not want this kind of thought process. I do not want to be so fearful. I do not want to feel afraid. I do not want that person to create a flutter in my stomach, or that person to get my heart racing out of fear. You know, I don't want all that, and I am going to avoid all these scenarios. I'm going to avoid all these situations. I'm going to protect myself. This is what is discomfort with discomfort, and that is what fear is. You know, when we are necessarily afraid of the experience that we are going through. And yes, Rosie shares that the two biggest fears are public speaking and death. Yeah, so I'm happy I seem to have conquered the first one at least. So definitely, you know, this discomfort, it is not so much the fear of public speaking, but it is the fear of the sensations in our body that the idea of public speaking creates. You know, fear is not necessarily about something abstract. It is about something we have experienced in the past at the level of the body and the psyche, and we don't want to go through it this time around, because we have not developed that muscle, that threshold with discomfort. So this is something which I always used to define fear as. In the past, you know, if you go to my website and see some courses, there are definite courses around this called Courageous Living and similar modules, wherein I used to define fear this way. But of late, I have come to another definition of fear. And before I go there, I'm going to read out some of your comments. And in case there's a question there, I'm going to try and address that. So yes, absolutely, it can be lack of trust and faith, though that is one dimension I have not yet spoken about. And yes, lack of security if I'll be looked after. So these are interesting ways of defining fear as well. And an occurrence of what we run away from when we run away from our sensations. Precisely, Loveleen. Yes. So fear is always about something very tangible, and it is not the idea but the sensations in the body that we do not want to, though however unconscious those sensations are, you know. So developing comfort with discomfort is the primary skill to move from fear to courage, you know. Now I'm going to touch upon an interesting line of thought to define fear in another way. See, what are we actually afraid of? We are afraid of, say, for example, in the current scenario, we are afraid of depleting our bank balance. We are afraid of contracting the virus, which could, you know, make it really difficult for ourselves and our families. And at other times, we are afraid of things like failure or criticism or death, you know, all these things. So there is a certain commonality between all these examples which I gave you. And this is how I would like to define fear for you. You know, fear is a response to a real or perceived threat, and more importantly, perceived threat, because real threats are relatively lesser. You know, the fear that comes when you cross a road, or the fear that if you're going to touch a flame, It is almost instinctual. I wouldn't like to call it fear also. It is the reptilian brain which is just giving a reflex action. So उसको भय का नाम भी नहीं दे सकते. वो हमारी चेतना का ही एक अंग है, जो हमें बचाता है उस क्षण में. What is more interesting is to look at the perceived threats. And what are these perceived threats? All of these perceived threats are born from what we identify ourselves as. So, as Nawaz Markar just shared, that fear is based on ego, and that is precisely what I want to share now. What is ego? Ego, simply defined, is nothing but what I identify myself with. So, if I identify my existence with my bank balance, then any attack on the bank balance is going to make me fearful. If I identify myself with my body, then any chance of experiencing any form of agony in the form of COVID-19 or whatever to this body arouses fear in me. If I identify myself with my reputation in society, then any form of attack on my reputation arouses, or possibility of attack arouses, fear in me. If I identify myself with my child, then any kind of perceived future harm to my child is going to make me afraid in this moment. So it is very interesting to always look upon fear from this larger context, that all my fear, or whatever form of fear that I have in this moment, is in some or the other way directly related with what I seem to be identifying myself with. I'm not saying that it is easy to disidentify from the body, or to disidentify from our child, or to disidentify from our bank balance. I'm not at all saying that it is easy. It is difficult, but nevertheless, that is the most authentic way in order to do away with fear. As long as we have these identifications, as long as we consider ourselves to be our bank balances and our bodies and our children and our reputation, to that extent, life, being an extraordinarily compassionate teacher, will create more and more circumstances to help us go beyond that. And what we tend to do in the moments of those circumstances, कि उस चीज से उसकी सीख लेने के बजाय हम उल्टा जीवन को कोसने लगते हैं कि मेरे साथ ऐसा होता है. हम हमारा दुखड़ा रोने लगते हैं. हमें हमारी जो ग्लानि है, भीतरी ग्लानि, उसका अनुभव होने लगता है, और हम जीवन का धिक्कार करते हैं, जीवन का तिरस्कार करते हैं, संजोगों का तिरस्कार करते हैं. So it is the very process of identifying with anything external of me which creates this fear in me. So every occasion which creates fear in me is an opportunity for me to disidentify from whatever I have attached myself with. I would love to listen to your shares on the chat line as to what are the things that you have identified with, and would afford to be very honest here. I could have often identified definitely with my body, definitely with my child, less with the spouse, but yes, next with the spouse, then with my parents, to some extent, yet with bank balance. So, and these are the areas when they are threatened to some extent, yet with the reputation. So these are the areas which, when threatened, are what arouse or can arouse fear in me or fear in us, you know. So, and how does this whole mechanism work? Because of this fear that we experience, what we do is we close ourselves. For example, anxiety, what we call, say, social anxiety. So what this person would do is, at every available opportunity to socialize, because of the anxiety, this person will isolate himself or herself. And in the moment of isolating yourself, you kind of create a fortress around you, which is good for the moment, and you're not socializing, which is good for the moment, so nobody can overwhelm you, which is good for the moment. But imagine what happens after that. What happens after that is that life, being a compassionate teacher, is going to create more and more opportunities of people calling you, inviting you for functions, or calling you up and wanting to spend time with you, or obligations, social obligations that you have to somehow cover. So the very things which irritate you, or which make you fearful, or which make you anxious, now become bigger triggers, because you have created a fortress around you. And now everybody is as if, like how you see in movies like those Bajirao Mastanis and all that, you know, there are those वो तोप पे लगी हुई होती है, you know, there are those tanks, and then that cannonball is thrown, you know, to the wall of the fortress, and that cannonball is designed to kind of actually pierce through the walls and defeat the enemy. So the life, being a compassionate teacher, starts throwing, you know, these kind of cannonballs on us. And because the wall is there, these balls now hit us very, very hard. So this is how all sort of security backfires for us. So we built the security, we built the fencing so that we do not get attacked, but the very fence now makes us fearful, because the very fence can be attacked. You know, I'll give you another example. That say you are afraid of your neighboring country and you build an army. Though I'm not saying one shouldn't build an army, we should, but let us look at the context. So we build an army. Now, because we built an army, the neighbor is afraid, and the neighbor also builds an army. Now, because the neighbor builds an army, and for all you know, the neighbor has got some extra missiles or some extra, you know, launching vehicles or some extra submarines, you are going to expand your army base, air base, naval base, you know, and then even he's going to expand. So the moment you created that fence, the other guy is getting more and more equipped to attack your fence, and now you're going to be much more afraid. So the very fort जो हम जिसका हम निर्माण करते हैं खुद को बचाने के लिए, उसी पर अटैक शुरू होता है, और फिर वही अटैक हमें बहुत भारी लगता है. So this is the dynamics of fear, you know. So the very act of trying to make ourselves secure makes us insecure, you know. I'm going to repeat this 2 more times, because this is a very fundamental point. The very act of making ourselves secure makes us insecure. You know, जिस चीज से हम हमारी सुरक्षा का निर्माण करने की कोशिश करते हैं, उसी वजह से हमारी असुरक्षा का निर्माण हो जाता है. I had once been on a, you know, on a padayatra, and I had noticed that how some of these people, you know, I was for 15 odd days, I was in the north near in Uttarakhand without money, penniless, and I was being taken care of by all these, by what I call the heartfelt generosity of strangers. And these strangers who didn't even have perhaps a meal beyond the next 4-5 days were so willing and so earnest to get me to stay with them, simply because they wanted to serve somebody who is on this kind of a yatra. So I realized one of my lessons was that because they don't have, they are not attached. And because they're not attached, they don't experience the insecurity. Whereas a person who has so much feels very difficult to even shell out 1% or 5% of what he has, in spite of having millions or crores or billions. Because the very process of creating security makes you insecure. That is the whole dynamics around fear. So whenever we try to make ourselves secure, we become more insecure. As simple as that. I'm going to repeat it. It's such a fundamental point. Whenever we try to make ourselves secure, we make ourselves insecure as a part of the very act. And you can extrapolate this to any kind of scenario in life. So having shared with you, I see some of you have joined us late. I'm going to do a very quick recap of everything that we have covered until now. We have seen how caution and fear are two different things. In the current COVID situation, there are some people who require to be fearful in order to behave in a cautious manner, but not all of us have to be that way. We do not have to be fearful in order to be cautious, though we should be cautious. And logistical fear or rational fears, wearing a mask and keeping social distancing is one thing, but to make it psychological by giving into all the media or all the gossip or extrapolating in your own head about all the possible scenarios and complicating it for yourself is all irrational fear, and we don't need any of that. We are far better without it. The second point we explored is how fear is not about an abstract idea in the head, but it is about a definite sensation in the body, and it is a sensation we don't want to re-experience. And because we don't want to re-experience that sensation, we tend to just stall from our awareness anything and everything that is going to create that sensation once again for us. But if we develop comfort with that sensation, if we say I am ready, if I have social anxiety and I say I am ready to go through what this party puts me through, or if I have financial anxiety and I say that I am ready to go through the misery that a depleted bank balance puts me through, then that very readiness is our comfort with our discomfort, and that comfort with our discomfort helps go beyond fear. The second definition of fear that we touched upon is fear is essentially nothing but a response to a real or perceived threat. A real threat is rare occasions, maybe 5% or 10% occasions when you cross a road or you're about to touch a flame or something like that. But the perceived threats is what our life is all about. And a perceived threat is nothing but an attack on whatever we consider ourselves to be. So if I consider myself to be my bank balance, or myself to be my body, or myself to be my child, then any danger to my bank balance, any danger to my body, any danger to my child is going to just, set our fear tentacles kind of wide open. So having established this base about what fear fundamentally is, and looking at it in the context of the current scenario, I now want to take this forward and explain to you about how fear manifests in our lives in the areas of, let us say, relationships or career, or generally, we could look at some of these. But in the meantime, I would definitely like to go through your comments. And yes, as Nawaz Markar shares that the areas like the bungalow and the spouse and sisters and child, and Prasad shares that it is independence and financial security. So these are the typical areas definitely where we have attached our identity, and the extent to which our identity is invested in these areas and avenues of life. To that extent, do remember that life, being a compassionate teacher, is going to make it all obvious for us. It's just going to expose each and every way in which we have invested ourselves in what we call are the phenomenal objects, or what we call is anything which is not myself, my authentic self, in anything that is external to me, in anything which is an object or an idea, you know. Even if you are deeply invested in a cause, so if you are, say, for example, secular, and a fundamentalist comes along, he is a threat to your idea of secularism. And if you are a fundamentalist and a secular comes, then that secular person is a threat to your fundamentalist idea, and somewhere or the other you're going to be afraid of him, you know. Whatever cause we attach ourselves to is going to inherently generate fear in us. So having understood this basis, let us, and I see Akshay has posted a link, and I would love to share here that this is, in case you're not on my broadcast list, you can just use this link and be a part of the broadcast list, so you are updated about the events that we have every Tuesday. Myself and a group of friends who share a variety of topics. Even if you go on the timeline of this group, you will find some very enriching content. Some of us are trainers in our own rights, and some of us are here simply to share from our heart space, even if we are not trainers. So just join the broadcast list if you're not a part of it. And towards the end of today's session, I'll also share about an upcoming webinar of mine, which is a natural extension of everything that we are discussing today. So I now want to share with you some relevant examples in terms of how fear manifests in the various areas of our life. Let us say the area of relationships, you know. When I came back from my penniless Padayatra, as we put it, people were feeling how I could have managed to go for 2 weeks without gadgets or without money, you know, without all these standard security blankets as such. But I was present to one fact, you know. Every time somebody would compliment my courage, I would tell them that I seem to have done this Padayatra out of spirit of sheer adventure, and my adventure sort of helped me to kind of sublimate my fears related to absence of money in the walking pilgrimage. But that doesn't mean I have conquered all my fears, because yet one area of life was relationships, where I realized that the fears that are involved in the context of relationships are, you know, to what extent. First of all, I do not want to make a case that we should be sharing anything and everything in a relationship, because 90% of what we share in our relationship is garbage. You know, 90% doesn't come from a space of silence. It doesn't come from a space of deep inner stillness, or our complacency with ourselves and our sufficiency with ourselves as such. So these are just some rigid expectations and some sort of inner compulsions, and a variety of you know, our own patternings that we tend to just offload in relationships. And this doesn't help relationships. 80 to 90% of the stuff which we share in relationships in under the name of authenticity also should not be shared, you know. Nowadays, this whole concept of authenticity is so very much misused to justify reactivity and to justify sharing from a troubled inner climate, you know, sharing from a deeply tumultuous inner space in the name of authenticity. So, but regardless of that, there is always 10 to 20% area in sticky area in a relationship that we should wear on our sleeves, and we should discuss with the people around us. These are particularly the non-negotiable areas where we cannot take their boundary invasions, or these are certain areas wherein their weaknesses are profoundly clear and we need to call them out, you know. So these are the areas where truth needs to be exercised, where honesty needs to be exercised. पर जैसे हमने पहले देखा कि हमारे भीतर ये संवेदन का भय होता है, you know, we are afraid of just going through the sensation. The last time, you know, you had an honest discussion with your business partner or your life partner or your sibling, you know, it led to some flutters in our stomach, and it led to some, it can manifest in different ways, you know. It could lead to some gas, or it could just lead to some sort of anxiety and a pounding heart, or subconscious sensations which we can't necessarily pin down, but nevertheless they exist. And then because we don't want to go through these experiences again within our body and psyche, we choose to avoid these so-called controversial topics or so-called discomforting topics, you know. And what happens in this process, what essentially happens in this process is that because we are not comfortable with our inner discomfort and we are not truthful in our relationships, we do not end up communicating. The other person doesn't know what we are upset about or what we want rectified in them, and relationships do not move on to the next level. You know, it is only when your inner climate is deeply seen by the other person, and all the more when it is shared in a non-reactive, vulnerable manner, that it will be deeply seen by the other person. But non-reactivity and conscious vulnerability may not be enough. What we require is a certain amount of grip on this fear, that it is okay to feel that flutter in the stomach when we share this. It is okay to feel the flutter in the stomach when the other person is going to come back with his side of the argument, whether it is valid or invalid. You know, it is okay to feel all this, and yet we step up, and yet we choose to participate in the dialogue, in the conversation, in laying ourselves bare, and in receiving another side of the dialogue with a huge amount of receptivity, howsoever uncomfortable it is for us. That is when communication begins. तभी वो संभावना का जन्म होता है, जहां पर आपका हृदय और दूसरे का हृदय मिल पाए. आपने अपने हृदय की बात व्यक्त करी, अभी वो व्यक्ति अपने हृदय की बात व्यक्त करेगा, और जब उसका हृदय आपके हृदय की बात संपूर्णता से और खुले मन से सुन सकता है, समझ सकता है, आपका हृदय उसके हृदय की कठोर बात संपूर्णता से और खुले, तभी जाकर के एक संबंध का निर्माण होता है. यू नो, anything less than that is not communication, or is not relating. It is not relationship itself. So it is very, very important that you know, we touch upon the dimension of fear in relationships. And yes, the fear of rejection, as Asha Rao asks, is very preliminary, because it is not just the fear of communication and everything the communication entails, but are we going to lose the love of another person by we saying what we say? Are we going to will we have to live without their love? Will we have to live with their unlove? Will we have to live with their hatred? Will we have to live with their rejection? Will we lose our own value in our own eyes because of they losing our value in their eyes? You know, all these the interplay of all these dynamics is what essentially makes it so difficult, you know. So that is what truth, practicing truth and practicing fearlessness in relationships. But I always love to give this caveat: authenticity doesn't mean reactivity. Authenticity means telling your truth. A part of the definition of truth is to try to make it as non-reactive as we can. We being humans cannot always be non-reactive. but it should be our constant endeavor to come from a space of stillness and a space of non-reactivity, and then yet wear the truth on our sleeve, and help the other person see our heart, feel our heart, stand in our shoes and look at things from our viewpoint. And we do the same when they speak. This is what establishes communication through practicing fearlessness in relationships. I would have liked to cover the career aspect, but I just want to honor the timeline. This topic is so dear to me that I can go on for hours together. So in order to honor the timeline, I want to leave you with a couple of things. I want to leave you with one technique before we quit this session, because I very strongly believe that the spiritual process is cognitive on one hand and very visceral on the other. Things have to heal at the level of the body. That is why we require techniques and interventions and modalities. But the understanding is also so important. So I will leave you with a technique, but prior to that, I want to invite you for the upcoming webinar. Akshay could post the link on the timeline. This Saturday, I am going to do a webinar on a topic which has been of deep significance to me in my entire life. There's one thing that I pride myself for, is that I chose to walk my path, and I forged my own path in life in the face of a variety of obstacles. And I could do all of that simply by being true to myself. I realized relatively earlier on in life that in order to be supremely happy, and because I have only one life, I would rather live my life on my terms. And my terms were not the terms that were acceptable to a lot of people around me. And and they were absolutely valid, the space they were coming from, but I was also equally valid, and I forged my own path by being true to myself. So what I want to do this month for a lot of you guys and a lot of my ongoing students is to give you that framework as to how we can honor our unique self, honor our unique wiring, how we are as individuals, not be afraid of choosing to get off the beaten path, forge our own path, our vocation. Within that also, there are so many difficult choices that need to be exercised. And how to do that in the face of society not being conducive to your decision. And when I say society, it begins with our intimate near and dear ones, or our extended families or extended circles, or even the world at large, depending on how large a goal we have. So I'm going to create a framework and share the framework in context of my own life as to how life should be about a certain goal which can organize things for us, and how that goal has to be in sync with our inner wiring, and how our goal and our path is not in sync with society necessarily, and how we can still walk our path while compassionately handling everything that comes our way, until the very people who do not believe in us right now become our fanfare. So there is a definite framework to that. There is a definite thought process there, and I would love to be of use to you in that area. You should take full advantage of the fact that we have slashed our pricing to 50% during the lockdown, and at what comes across to me at least as a very, very economical price, all these monthly webinars are available. So I look forward to see a lot of you in that webinar upcoming Saturday. And besides that, one last thing, though I am overshooting on the timeline, is to share this technique with you. And actionable is very, very important. So I would like to share, fear has a lot of varieties, and fear itself can be busted in a variety of ways. The technique that I feel called to share today is around a particular Vedic deity who is sort of the very epitome of fearlessness. You know, who in whose life and in whose entire process of not just life but supporting the devotees, fearlessness is seen, and that is the deity whom we call as Kala Bhairava in Vedic Hinduism. You know, he is also called Bhairava in general, even Batuk Bhairava. He is also called Nakoda Bhairava in Jainism. It is the same Bhairava, is a form of Shiva, and this particular form of Shiva is a very, very powerful form to defeat the entire imprint of fear from our psyche. Every time I feel fearful, I call upon him. You know, and there are occasions when I find instant relief, perhaps because I am also highly connected to him, and there are occasions when I see gradual relief. But these deities are deeply compassionate beings who are always waiting to be called upon. You know, so the way to call upon Kala Bhairava is through a particular Vedic chant, which is not essentially Vedic, but it comes from the school of Kashmir Shaivism, which is a school, a very, very valid and a very, very powerful school of non-duality from the regions of Kashmir in North India. And this chant is what we call Udyamo Bhairava. You know, this mantra, you can say Udyamo Bhairava. Maybe somebody can type that for you in the timeline, in the chat line. And Udyamo Bhairava is an impulse of fearlessness, which runs like, you know, a small discharge of pranic energy. It is an upsurge of pranic energy from your root chakra to your you know. So every time you pronounce Udyamo Bhairava, as has been aptly written by Akshay in the timeline, the same. So I'm just going to pronounce it for you. Udyamo Bhairava, Udyamo Bhairava, Udyamo Bhairava. Depending on your connection with the world of deities and your general deep connection with your higher self, you know, this mantra will give you results at that pace. You can do it as often as you want. There is no upper ceiling or there's no lower ceiling either, you know. So I'm going to leave you with that particular technique to go beyond your fears, connect to Kala Bhairava, and you know, just soak in the fearlessness that he grants you as you connect more and more to him. At that note, I'm just going to do one quick recap. I'm perhaps shooting on the timeline, but essentially, caution and fear are two different things. You can be cautious without being fearful. Fear can be rational or irrational. Irrational fear can play havoc with our lives. It is best not to give in to irrational fears. Fear is nothing but our discomfort with discomfort. When we don't want to feel so-called painful sensations in the body and psyche, we experience tremendous fear. At the same time, we are always afraid of the things we have invested our identity in. So if we have invested in our identities in our houses and our reputations and our children and our bodies, to that extent, that is going to be challenged by the compassionate teacher called life. And fear manifests in the domain of relationships because we are afraid of speaking our innate truth. But we need to step up and speak our innate truth from a heart space, which essentially means as non-reactively and as compassionately and as authentically as we can. And this is the cognitive side of it. And if you want to do deeper work within your own system of doing away with all the fear imprint, I exhort you to call upon Kala Bhairava, through the mantra Udyamo Bhairava. And lastly, I once again wholeheartedly invite you for the webinar on Saturday evening, and forge for yourself a path through which you will be able to walk like a lion in life. You will at least get the theoretical framework of how to live life, live your life as per your unique wiring, your inclinations, your tastes, while compassionately handling all the obstacles that come our way through the conspiracy of society, as I like to put it. So all the very best, and I look forward to see you on Saturday. And either ways, be in touch with us. Every Tuesday evening, either me or one of my friends would be talking to you on even beyond the lockdown on something highly relevant and something which can be deeply productive and useful in your life. Thank you so much. Love you all. Goodbye.